Yes.
Yes,
Can
yes.
I get a double espresso?
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Three?
two double
Okay.
espresso.
Three.
3.
Four.
Double espresso.
Actually, cappuccino.
A cappuccino.
Okay.
Actually, can I have a cappuccino?
Yeah, make that 3 cappuccinos.
Three.
I want
Four.
that cappuccino.
Fred?
Nutty.
Okay.
想一下吧。
我看见我刚才确实有这样，我跟这样这样。
There we go. Wrapping it down.
Do you want to handle that?
Yeah.
All the questions are
Not really.
Yeah.
What are you guys proposing? We'll wait for the credit to come back. Let us wait for it to come back.
I'm going to raise it at the end.
What are you raising?
Just with the extra questions and the answers, with the extra time from getting into the reports you're trying to get in today.
Yeah.
Or whether they're going to want to extend it from when they actually get the additional answers to the additional questions. Let's try and get them there. I'll raise it at the end so everyone's there to work. And then the experts can discuss it. Yeah.
A professional recorder, would you mind? Thank you so much. Thank you. We forget about the most important job here. Apart from you, Paul.
You're equally professional.
Are we done with the model for now?
Yeah, we've got a lot of questions, but we'll follow up in writing.
We'll address those maybe in writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we give that.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. And is it possible that we might want a second session? I mean, conceivably by phone? Is that?
Mayor, you're looking at
Is
me,
that
but
feasible?
it's just not up to me, to be honest. It's the experts. This is their bag.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on the subject?
Well, I think my general experience is telephone gets to be a bit of a mess.
I'm sure that's right.
So my thinking was, because we actually prepared kind of a syllabus, as you can see in the categories, with a lot of detailed questions, and we kind of modified that format to facilitate, Chris and the dissenters today. So I think kind of what we would probably do is follow up with, and obviously they'd be loaded to where you have access to them as well, but
Yeah.
our questions, and ask that perhaps responses come back in writing. And if some are better handled telephonically, we could do that. But from a record perspective, getting those and having written responses back probably may be the most convenient way.
I think if you discuss and agree on an approach, either are fine with us, we'll just make an
Yes.
effort to make ourselves available or respond in writing. Either way would be fine.
Well, so
Yeah.
what I'm imagining is that there has to be a moment when we're done, doesn't there? Procedurally.
Yeah. That's what Paula's going to talk about. She's got the order there, and Elliot, I'm sure you have something to say about this. But because you guys are supposed to do your reports within 28 days of today.
Yes.
And so that's what we were going to suggest, whether, well, obviously you guys have to decide when you're going to have all the adequate material, but whether that 28 days start running from when you get written responses from home-ins, or whether there is going to be a second management meeting. But obviously, the way the order is set now, any questions that have to be to home-ins by the 20th of January, they'd have 7 days to response, which is the 27th of January, and you'd have then 14 days after that to do your report. and I don't know the length or volume of your questions, whether 14 days would be adequate, but I'm assuming it's
14
probably
days
quite-
is quite short.
Yes.
For, for a report of this kind. I would
When's
say.
Chinese New Year again? Did we say end of
28th.
January?
27th.
27
Yeah.
starts, the holidays are 27, and practically people don't come back to work until February 10.
Yeah.
So practically speaking, does that mean that the 26th is a working day?
26 is the
Mm.
working day.
And that's okay. So look, what I think we should do is plan for a phone call on the 26th.
That's going to be a challenge for me.
Plan for a phone call on the last day before the 26th. That's not going to be a challenge for you.
I think 26 you're not.
I'm not available.
Can I just say this is not because I want a phone call. This is because if we're asking questions back and forth, you know, in a sense we want a phone call, even if what it says is, are we done? Yes, we're done. Or maybe, are we done? Well, except for this one point. Well, here's an answer to this one point, so now we're done. And it sounds to me as though we have to be done by the end of, or, you know, by a date close to the 26th. And that will serve as a date for getting any written questions answered by.
Answered by 26.
Well, so there needs to be, I mean, I'm imagining, I'm not the process guy here, but, you know, I'm imagining that process-wise, we have to stop at some point.
Yeah.
It seems to me like it's
I think
convenient
that's a
to
great, way of putting
stop
it.
before the Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that we should have a phone call to agree that we're done or to answer any residual questions that may still remain.
I agree entirely with all that. I can just imagine that if we get, you know, hundreds of questions, for example, on the 26th, they're just not going to.
No,
be
no, no,
answered
no, I
anything
think-
like that. You know.
So I think John and I have to agree that we are responsible citizens here, and you know, if there are questions, then the questions have to go soon.
Yeah, I think under the
Um,
order they're supposed to be done by the 20th of January.
The questions.
The questions are supposed to be based on when the experts report's due now, and then Home Minister to respond with that from 7 days on. So I think, I don't know, 20 January to me, with given the Chinese New Year date, seems a good end date, but obviously we'd appreciate it before.
Good end date for the asking of any
for the asking of
questions.
any questions, but before that would be much more appreciated if you've got hundreds
Okay,
of
and it's the
them.
proposition that we then have 28 days after the day on which we
Decide
say
you're
that we're done.
Well, that's what I was going to say. At the moment, that's not the way it is, but that's what we were going to suggest would seem sensible to us. Giving you 14 days seems a bit tight, but it's purely a matter for you, and obviously, yeah.
I think we need to take instructions on the timetabling. Obviously, I sympathise with the needs to get all of the questions asked and answered.
Yeah, the asking is the easy bit.
Before, I think did we agree or did we propose?
Yeah, I think based on moving the management meeting date, because I think it was originally the 19th of December, it was agreed that that the dates, everything moved back from, so it was always, the order always said that the experts' reports are due 28 days from the date of the management meeting, and so, but that which is, so based on that today, it's the 10th of February that they're due, and the order also states that the last day for questions is 21 days before the experts' reports are due, and they must be answered within 7 days by Home Ends. So we basically agreed that everything would get pushed back due to the management meeting being pushed back in that timetable. So it's merely.
So I think for us it's still okay if you can give us
Yeah.
the questions by the 20th. We can respond in writing by the 27th, unless there's extraordinary amount of questions we may voice right after we receive the questions. But otherwise, that's our plan. And then after you receive our written response, then it's up to you how long you need to prepare the report. But if you need another telephone call, Then we need to work out a schedule where we can be together and we can mutually be available.
The only reason I raised it is because I know originally it was envisaged, I think it was like any further follow-up minor questions, but as we don't seem to be finished today, I imagine it's more than just a few clarifications as to what was said in the management meeting today. So it's probably something for you two to discuss, and then
As matters stand at the end of today, we've had the management meeting and reports are due in 28 days. I think if we're going to change that, you or we should make a proposal in writing to do that on Monday and agree what the timetable is. I think trying to do that around this table is going to be too many views on something.
Well, I just think the experts need to kind of just come to an agreement as well. If they can reach an agreement, it makes things easier, because ultimately it's them that has the burden.
It's certainly going to be part of our correspondence to have checked with them that they're able to to perform within that time.
Look, I will say that
We're instructed to suggest.
often there isn't as much goodwill in this process as there does now appear to be around the table.
Good, thank you. Thank you for saying.
And I would have thought that we could do something sensible. There you go.
Okay, so we were just laying that down as a marker. There are going to be some. It's a tough question for all of us, and so we just want to make you guys fully aware of it. Okay, so it's it's 3:53.
Yeah. I have a feeling there ought to be a clever form of this question, but the transaction itself, if I could ask you about that, and would it be fair to say that the management of Home Inns has some history with the with BTG?
Yes, it would definitely be fair to say that. A lot of history with BTG.
So what was the strategic intent, would you say, behind the transaction?
The strategic intent of the buyer group, or the strategic intent from the management perspective?
Well, I'm assuming here that the management of Home Inns had some say in the overall strategy, either as an entity that was being acquired or as an entity that was driving the process. So I'm most interested in the perspective of Home Inns as to the strategic intent.
I've been with the company for 10 years, and it is my understanding that BTG Group is one of the joint venture partners ever since the inception of Home Inns back in 2002. And BTG Group always had 2 board members, including a co-chairman of the company, on Home Inn's board. Ever since I joined Home Inn, I met with BTG directors together with the remainder of the Home Inn's directors on a quarterly basis, either in person or through telephone conference. BTG Group has always been quite involved in Home Inn's overall strategy and business planning, and they've always respected management in terms of our proposals and our assessment of the state of the business and business plan. I think in 2015, actually throughout the year end 2015 business planning and cycle, BTG Group, together with the remainder of the board, is fully aware of the fairly difficult situation Ho Min is at our state of business, as we had discussed. So I believe that BTG Group sees that making Ho Min a private company or a part of, or not an independently publicly listed company, will allow Ho Min to take off some of the pressure of having to grow in an environment where we do not see as much profitable growth opportunities, and really give us more flexibility to manage the business in the long term. And this is something I think as management team we also would incline to agree. And at the same time, BTG Group, as with its state-owned enterprise background, clearly has easy access to financing, has other resources in the Chinese market. So as management, part of the management team, I believe, and I think Kathy would agree, our management team also believe that given what we perceive as limited fundamental means to break out of the current state of business, we believe being part of a larger company and being part of being supported by a Chinese state-owned company may have positive impact on Ho Min's business in the future.
And what form would that positive impact take?
Financing is a big consideration, because even though Ho Min was able to do the public listing in the U.S. market, which helped us a lot, but our ability to finance through any other channel is very